tonight at 10.
He's one of the BBC's highest profile and highest paid stars, a renowned, respected and reassuring face who for the past 2 decades has fronted the broadcaster's flagship news bulletin, News at 10. Known as the voice of the nation, he's been at the helm during some of Britain's most testing times, trusted to break the biggest news.
America is pounded in the world's biggest terrorist attack. The voters decide that after 4 decades, it's time for Britain to leave the European Union. A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
But now, after days of speculation and growing pressure from BBC talent and staff, Huw Edwards' wife has come forward to say her husband is the suspended BBC presenter. For nearly a week, he'd been at the heart of a social media guessing game over the identity of the BBC star, facing accusations they paid a teenager tens of thousands of pounds for sexually explicit images. Claims from a mother and stepfather, which first surfaced in The Sun last Friday, that an unidentified male presenter made a series of payments for photographs starting when the now 20-year-old was 17. Money the mother claims the teenager spent fueling a crack addiction, insisting she spoke out because after complaining to the BBC, she felt nothing had been done. The story put the corporation under the spotlight, sparked a wave of controversy and subsequently more claims. Male BBC presenters, including Gary Lineker, Rylan Clark, Jeremy Vine and Nikki Campbell, had to publicly announce it wasn't them.
It was a distressing weekend. I can't deny it, for me and others falsely named.
As the controversy raged, the BBC was forced to admit they hadn't spoken to Edwards about the complaint for 7 weeks. During that time, he'd appeared at the Trick Awards to pick up an honour for the BBC's coverage of the Queen's funeral.
Thank you very much, dear friends. Thank you to Trick and thank you to the people who voted.
The tipping point in the scandal came this morning when The Sun published a further story carrying claims Edwards had broken strict lockdown rules during the pandemic by meeting a stranger from a dating app, a lockdown he himself broke news of.
Boris Johnson has announced that England will once again enter a period of lockdown tonight, to be enforced by law from the early hours of Wednesday morning.
That led to renewed calls from fellow BBC presenter Jeremy Vine for the star to come forward and identify himself.
It's his decision, but he needs to come forward now, I think. I know his survival instinct has kicked in, and I know he saw what happened to Philip Schofield, but my God, look at the damage to the BBC.
And sparked a war of words between current and former BBC staff over whether he should step forward, with former BBC News correspondent John Sopel telling Vine to shut up.
There's a way of not being the story, and that's by not being the story.
By STFU. Shut the f*** up.
As that debate raged on, senior Met police detectives announced there would be no criminal investigation into the original allegations, saying the Met Specialist Crime Command had concluded their assessment and determined there's no information to indicate that a criminal offence has been committed. They said in reaching this decision they spoke to a number of parties, including the BBC and the alleged complainant and the alleged complainant's family, both via another police force. There is no further police action. As such, the Met has advised the BBC it can continue with its internal investigation. The final twist came at 6 p.m. tonight when Huw Edwards' wife, Vicky Flind, released a statement to the Press Association saying she was doing it out of concern for his mental well-being and to protect our children. She said Huw is suffering from serious mental health issues, as is well documented. He's been treated for severe depression in recent years. The events of the last few days have greatly worsened matters. He's suffered from another serious episode and is now receiving inpatient hospital care, where he'll stay for the foreseeable future. Once well enough to do so, he intends to respond to the stories that have been published. Tonight, Britain's best-known news broadcaster, the unofficial public face of the BBC, is in hospital. He has not resigned, and no one knows how long it will be before he returns to our screens or if he ever returns at all.